Liberty Square, Liberty City. Located in Miami, Florida, is home to one of the largest concentrations of Black residents in South Florida. The neighborhood is a vibrant place with strong athletic and community-based programs that produce many successful people. However, these truths are rarely, if ever, highlighted. The crime present in the community is heavily covered by local news outlets, thus portraying Liberty Square solely as a low-income, crime-ridden area to the outside world. But why is this neighborhood in this condition in the first place? To answer that, we'll have to visit the founding of Miami as a city. The year is 1891. Julia Tuttle, an American businesswoman from Ohio, has just purchased a large swath of land where present-day Miami is located. She realizes the potential of the area to become a major center of trade due to its great weather and access to water. But she needs a way to connect this remote city to the rest of the world. She convinces railroad magnate Henry Flagler to bring his East Coast Railway down to Miami from Jacksonville to bring traffic to the new southern city. He agreed, and by late 1895, work on the railroad had begun. The majority Black workers used to construct the railroad became a large presence in the Miami area. When Miami incorporated as a city a year later, in 1896, the city adhered to the segregation laws of the time, and the Black residents were sectioned off into an area that became known as Colored Town, present-day Overtown. At the turn of the 20th century, and over the next 20 to 30 years, Miami's population increases drastically, and Overtown becomes a mecca for Blacks who live in and visit the Miami area with its clubs, restaurants, performance halls, and hotels that cater to the Black patrons. Simultaneously, Overtown's population swells to roughly 50,000, leaving the city's lower-income Black residents to deal with the difficulties of overpopulation, along with the lack of basic services like running water and sewer services. With the draining of the Everglades, new cities such as Coral Gables, Hialeah, Miami Springs, and Opa-locka, to name a few, are created. These new communities also came with restrictive covenants meant to exclude Blacks from buying or renting property in the area, leaving them mostly restricted to the Overtown area. The Miami hurricane of 1926 and the stock market crash of 1929, along with the onset of the Great Depression, creates a dire situation for the residents of Overtown, Miami, and the U.S. Enter Franklin Delano Roosevelt and the New Deal, laws and programs meant to mitigate the hardships caused by the Great Depression and get the country back to economic stability. Programs such as the National Housing Act of 1934 created the FHA, who provides mortgage insurance to FHA-approved lenders in case borrowers default on their loans. The FHA also standardized the process of mortgage underwriting, which is used to weigh the risk associated with mortgage lending to a specific person. This is a very important point. The Homeowners Loan Act of 1933 created the Homeowners Loan Corporation, which used the underwriting guidelines from the FHA and gave them a physical form as residential security maps. These maps are how the term redlining was created. Green, Type A neighborhoods were usually well-off areas consisting of those with high-paying careers. Blue, Type B areas were considered good areas. Yellow, Type C areas were labeled as declining, with homes to working-class residents. And red, Type D areas were considered extreme risks and were mainly inhabited by immigrants, the poor, and especially Black people. The maps were used to determine who could receive a home loan and at what rates. Residents of the red Type D areas were almost always denied. If you compare a residential security map of Miami from 1935 with the redline areas today, you see just how generations of disenfranchised residents have been affected by these biased rules. Overtown, the dominant Black area in Miami, was one such redline area and made it nearly impossible for anyone in the area to receive or refinance a home loan. This made it difficult for Blacks to create wealth through home ownership and also added to the lowered economic status of their community. The lowered quality of the area led to the devaluation of property in the area, which led to less property taxes paid to fund the community. Continue the cycle for 80 years or so, and you have Overtown today. In 1937, the Public Works Administration, another New Deal program, created the Liberty Square apartment complex. The complex had been the first public housing project of its kind for Blacks in the South. It was built as segregated housing on the outskirts of Miami and was a highly coveted community for the Black population. The community grew to become a middle-income community, with wealthier Black families choosing to build their homes in the surrounding Liberty City area. Liberty Square and Liberty City would enjoy relative peace and be a model community for the next 20 years. Until 1956, with the passage of the Federal Highway Act, which aimed to build 41,000 miles of highway throughout the U.S. This led to the construction of I-95 and I-395 through the heart of Overtown, displacing hundreds of residents and disrupting the economic activity of the community. Although the new cities of Opa-locka, Miami Springs, and Hialeah existed, the race-based covenants prevented blacks from moving to these white areas. So where did they go? Well, to the only other option at the time, Liberty Square and the surrounding Liberty City. The area then turned from a predominantly middle-class black community to a low-income, overcrowded community in the 1960s. The passing of the Civil Rights Act of 1968 illegalized many of the racist housing policies of the past. Those covenants, which for so long restricted the areas which blacks could live, were now void, which permitted wealthier blacks to seek homes outside of Overtown and Liberty City. This took business owners, bankers, teachers, and other integral people away from the black community, leaving the lower-income residents in a worse state than before. Over-policing and a lack of resources, along with minimal representation in government, combined with 30 or 40 years, have turned the thriving communities of Liberty City and Overtown into shells of their former glory.